Some stories shout to be heard, but the best ones arrive in the quiet. Welcome to Tales from Timber Creek, where every lantern glow, every mountain trail, and even the falling rain has a gentle story to tell. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax. I have a story to tell you. The Bridge Across Willow Creek. The spring rains had finally passed through the valley, leaving the hills washed clean and bright beneath the morning sun. Wildflowers dotted the meadows like scattered paint, and the creek that wound through the countryside ran fuller than it had in years. Elias Turner stood on a rise overlooking his small homestead and smiled. At 24 years old, he owned little more than a weathered cabin, a few acres of pasture, and a stubborn mule named Copper. But what he lacked in possessions, he made up for in confidence. He worked hard, rose before dawn, and carried a certainty that tomorrow would always be better than today. That certainty was what led him to Willow Creek. For years, travelers had crossed the creek using a narrow ford that became nearly impassable whenever heavy rains arrived. Wagons became stuck, horses stumbled, trade routes slowed. One afternoon, while delivering firewood to town, Elias overheard merchants discussing the problem. If someone built a proper bridge, one trader said, they'd earn a small fortune charging wagons to cross. The idea rooted itself in Elias's mind. That evening, he walked the creek banks, studying the terrain. A bridge. Not just any bridge. A strong timber crossing built from cedar harvested in the nearby hills. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became. Every wagon would use it. Every traveler would pay. Within a year, he told himself, he'd be the wealthiest young man in the valley. The next morning, before a single log had been cut, Elias rode into town. He purchased new tools. He ordered supplies from the general store. When the storekeeper asked how he planned to pay, Elias smiled. Once the bridge is finished, I'll have more money than I know what to do with. The storekeeper raised an eyebrow. Finished bridges don't always bring finished fortunes. But Elias barely heard him. In his mind, the bridge was already built. The profits were already earned. The future was already certain. Over the next few weeks, his confidence grew larger than the project itself. He promised his cousin a job collecting tolls. He ordered a rocking chair he couldn't yet afford. He placed a deposit on a larger parcel of land upriver. He even spoke with a builder about expanding his cabin. Every decision rested on money that did not yet exist. When neighbors questioned his plans, he laughed. You're thinking about where I am, he said. I'm thinking about where I'll be. The old folks in the town exchanged knowing glances. Youth often mistakes possibility for certainty, but no one argued. Some lessons arrive only through experience. By early summer, Elias began cutting cedar. The work proved slower than expected. Trees had to be felled, logs dragged, timbers shaped by hand. Days stretched into weeks. The bridge rose gradually above the creek, but not nearly as quickly as Elias had imagined. Expenses piled up. His savings dwindled. Still, he remained confident. Once it's done, he told himself, everything changes. Then came the storm. It arrived late one afternoon as dark clouds gathered beyond the western ridge. The wind carried the scent of rain. By nightfall, thunder rolled across the valley. Lightning split the sky. The rain fell in sheets. Elias lay awake, listening to Willow Creek roar through the darkness. At dawn, he hurried toward the construction site. His stomach tightened before he even reached the water. The creek had become a river. The current surged with tremendous force. and the unfinished bridge was gone. Not just damaged, completely gone. Broken timbers floated miles downstream. Weeks of labor had vanished in a single night. Elias stood in silence. The rushing water seemed to mock every plan he'd made, every purchase, every promise, every dream built upon money that had never arrived. For several days he wandered his property in disbelief. He avoided town. He avoided neighbors. He avoided conversations. The future he had imagined had collapsed. Worse still, debts remained. Suppliers still expected payment. The land deposit was non-refundable. The rocking chair arrived exactly on schedule. The builder wanted confirmation about the cabin expansion. All the commitments remained. Only the fortune was missing. Eventually, necessity drove him into town. The general store owner greeted him kindly. "How's the bridge?" Elias stared at the floor. "The creek took it." The old merchant nodded. "I heard." After a moment, Elias said quietly, "I thought I knew what would happen." "Well, so did the creek," the merchant chuckled softly. Elias didn't. The older man leaned against the counter. "When I was your age, I planted twice as many apple trees as I could care for, counted the harvest before the blossoms even opened. What happened?" "A late frost." Elias managed a weak smile. The merchant continued, "We all do it. We start living inside tomorrow while forgetting we're still standing in today." Those words lingered with Elias long after he returned home. For the first time, he looked honestly at his situation. He had spent future success as though it already existed. He had built expectations on possibilities. He had mistaken confidence for certainty. The realization stung. Yet there was something freeing about it as well. For weeks, he focused only on what was real. No future profits, not imagined wealth, just the work in front of him. He repaired fences, cut firewood, sold lumber, paid down debts little by little. Progress felt slower than dreaming, but it was solid. One autumn afternoon, while hauling timber near Willow Creek, he noticed something. Travelers weren't merely struggling at the crossing, many were stopping altogether. The route had become unreliable. People were seeking alternate paths miles away. An idea emerged. This time he treated it differently. Instead of imagining riches, he began with questions. How strong must a bridge be? What would floods do? What materials would last? Who had built successful crossings before? He spent months learning. He sought advice from carpenters. He studied water levels through the winter and spring. He listened more than he spoke. The following year, he started again. Not with borrowed confidence, with preparation. The new bridge rose slowly. Its foundations reached deeper. Its support stood stronger. Every step was tested before the next began. Neighbors noticed the difference. The old Elias had spoken constantly about future rewards. The new Elias spoke mostly about today's work. By late summer, the bridge was complete, and travelers began using it. Then more travelers, then merchants, then ranchers moving cattle. Income arrived gradually, not as a flood, as a stream. But streams, Elias had learned, often last longer. One evening, he sat beside Willow Creek, watching the sunset paint the water gold. The same merchant who owned the general store happened to ride by. He stopped and admired the bridge. Looks sturdy. It is. And profitable? Elias smiled. Profitable enough. The old man studied him. That doesn't sound like the young fellow who planned to become the richest man in the valley. Elias laughed. No, that fellow spent money he didn't have. The merchant nodded. And this fellow? Elias glanced towards the bridge. This fellow waits until the wagon crosses before collecting the toll. The old man grinned. That's wisdom. They sat quietly for a while as evening settled over the valley. The bridge carried another wagon safely across the creek. Its wheels rattled over the timbers and disappeared into the distance. Elias watched it go. For the first time, he understood something the older generation had always known. Hope is valuable. Dreams are necessary. Plans matter. But none of them are the same as certainty. A harvest is not gathered because seeds were planted. A journey is not finished because it has begun. A bridge is not profitable because it exists in someone's imagination. The future may arrive exactly as hoped, or it may be washed downstream by the first unexpected storm. Wisdom is not expecting failure. Wisdom is recognizing that possibility and reality are different things. And until reality arrives, a person should be careful about spending what only exists in their imagination. The waters of Willow Creek continued flowing long after the sun disappeared. And whenever travelers crossed the sturdy bridge, they unknowingly passed over a lesson built into every beam. Do the work of today. Welcome the rewards when they come, but never spend tomorrow before tomorrow arrives.